It's time for Football at 4 with 97.3 ESPN.com's Andrew DiCecco.
My first allegiance is what will be best for the Philadelphia Eagles and our fans for the next 3, 4, 5 years.
Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios. It's Football at 4.
Football at 4 is powered by the guys at the Inside the Birds podcast, and it is brought to you by PropSwap, where America buys and sells sports bets. Find the best odds in the country at PropSwap.com or download the PropSwap app today. Andrew DiCecco's here to talk a little NFL. You know, a lot of people are going crazy about this Tim Tebow signing. I want to get Andrew's take on that, the latest on Aaron Rodgers, and some Eagles news and notes as well, with the rookie camps set to begin next week. So we'll get Andrew's thoughts on what he's looking for at Eagles rookie camp as Andrew DiCecco joins us now here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline for another edition of Football at 4. Andrew, what's going on, my man?
Hey, doing well, Mike.
All right. Well, I know that you're a big draft guy. That's behind us. But now I guess the next thing is to see how these rookies all kind of fit in. I'm imagining that this rookie camp is going to be kind of interesting. And I'm just, looking forward to getting, these guys out in the field and seeing what's going on here. But what are some of the things that you might be looking to kind of find out about some of these guys at this first rookie camp coming up?
Well, I mean, it's really hard to gauge much from these rookie mini camps. These guys are just more so getting acclimated, getting adjusted to the speed of the NFL, learning the playbook, getting acquainted with their coaching staff and things of that nature. But I mean, if you're going to take anything away, you kind of want to see, you want to see how Devontae Smith runs routes against, and how proficient he is in route running. You want to see the burst from a Milton Williams. And, you want to see what Teron Jackson, what size he shows up at, because there's a chance that he may have to play inside and nickel based on his skill set. So you want to see if he's, able to do that, if he has the size to do that. But, I mean, other than that, you're not really going to truly be able to take anything away from that until you get to training camp and the pads are on.
One guy I think everybody will have their eye on is Kenneth Gainwell, the running back, which a lot of people are excited about. But on Friday, the Eagles added running back Kerryon Johnson, and that was right after we kind of got off the phone with you on Friday. How do you see Kerryon Johnson kind of fitting in? He won't be at the rookie mini camps, obviously, but Kenneth Gainwell, you would imagine that Gainwell and Scott would be in a very similar type of role, and then you got Johnson and Howard, who are both kind of pass blockers, bigger between the tackle type of guys. So how do you find him fitting into this Eagles team?
Well, first he has to make the roster, right? I mean, that's far from guaranteed, but I mean, he ideally would be a third down, a nice fit in third down. He's tremendous in pass protection, catches the ball well. Jordan Howard's also very good in pass protection, and he's also a between the tackles thumper. So it'll be interesting to see those guys sort of challenge each other for that roster spot. Obviously, Boston Scott and Kenneth Gainwell are vastly different players. So, I mean, it's a low risk. It's a low risk signing, Mike. And obviously, he has multiple knee injuries and doesn't quite have the burst that he had as a rookie. I mean, that's evident when you watch him take the ball and his inability to do those jump cuts like he was able to do. He kind of just runs right into the pile of linemen and things like that. But it's a new system, and maybe he'll be rejuvenated here. I mean, he's only 23 years old, so there's a lot to be encouraged with. I mean, he does have some tools, and he's not going to be asked to carry the lion's share of the load. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, there's definitely an interesting I think that running back, as you said, he has to make the team, but they definitely have added competition. And the chances of him making the team, we don't know, but it has added some intrigue to that position, because it seemed like it was going to be Miles Sanders, Boston Scott, Jordan Howard, and then probably maybe another guy for that fourth running back spot. But do you think a guy like Kerryon Johnson and Jordan Howard both make the team, or are they kind of like up against each other?
I think they're kind of challenging against one another for one spot. And what I really like what the Eagles did this season, as adding competition to the running back room. I thought last year they really sort of handed guys, they pigeonholed guys into certain roles, and there wasn't really I mean, there was also no preseason, but I mean, Boston Scott wasn't particularly pushed. Corey Clement was kind of handed a role, and that's not a recipe for success. And I think now it's going to bring the best out of everybody, and you're going to see a much more motivated running back room this summer because everybody's trying to. I mean, you don't even know how many they're going to keep. So I mean, I ideally think they're going to keep 4. And, they're all going to be hopefully challenging right to the very end.
Yeah, and there's another, do you think at all that this maybe, I don't want to say says something to Miles Sanders? Hey, Miles, we're not asking you to be a 3-down back or, we want you to kind of split some time or take some not the fact that he got a lot of touches. People wanted him to get more touches. But does this coaching staff say, we don't see you as a guy that should get more touches either?
Well, I think it's also some insurance because Miles has gotten a little bit banged up, some soft tissue injuries with the hamstring and things of that nature. But it's certainly, like I said, adding depth at that position. Boston Scott he's decent as a third running back, but I think he was really miscast and exploited a little bit as a second running back on a depth chart, and he's very limited in what he's able to do. And I think you saw that. The offense was limited in terms of what they could do with him, and they lacked that power running element to their, to the offense. And I think that adding someone like Kerryon Johnson, who does have these different traits, who is good in pass protection, who can catch the football, and can do a little bit more than a Boston Scott can, even from an explosiveness standpoint. I mean, I think that just adds another layer to the Eagles' running game because after Miles Sanders, there wasn't much. And Sanders hasn't proved that he can stay on the field. He's only healthy for 12 games last season. So I think it's just more so, look, we don't know if this guy can be a 3-down running back, but in the event that he can't, and we want to lighten the load on him this season, and we want to stay committed to the running game, well, here's a couple guys who are capable behind him.
Andrew DiCecco, Football at 4. Some other things we want to go to. What about on the other side of the ball at that cornerback spot? Now what? What is left for the Birds to do? They can't go into training camp as is, can they?
You said corner, right?
Yes, corner.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote about this yesterday or today for InsideTheBirds.com. I mean, after Darius Slay, beyond him, I mean, you could easily make an argument that the Eagles have the worst cornerback group in football. It's just a collection of discarded journeyman type of players. I mean, Grayland Arnold. When Grayland Arnold is the shining player from that group vying for a depth spot. I mean, that's kind of problematic. I mean, I think the Eagles need to be careful in not overloading Zach McPherson, putting too much on his plate right off the bat because corner is it's one of those positions that this transition is not quite as seamless at the professional level than maybe other positions. And if you're kind of throwing him out there, it can disrupt his confidence and, kind of stunt his growth. So I think that they really do need to add a veteran there. And it could come in the form of a Steven Nelson, but I mean, he's 28 years old and I'm not sure from a cost, how cost effective that would be on a team with undergoing a rebuild. You could also see someone like maybe a Zach Ertz or even an Andre Dillard if you have a team that's banged up on the offensive line late in the summer, kind of like the Ronald Darby trade late, in the 2017 and August of 2017. And maybe one of these guys sort of shake free and you're able to get a young corner.
You like Maddox in the slot? Like if he plays the slot, is that a spot that you're comfortable with him getting regular snaps? Because obviously on the outside he had his troubles.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's better equipped to play to, man that slot position. And I do think that he's better in confined spaces. He doesn't have the length and his very short arms, and he really struggled against bigger bodied receivers. So I think being able to play on the inside is, best suited for his skill set. I think he can do it at a relatively high level. Obviously the Eagles, looked at other free agent corners. They looked at another free agent corner this offseason and the guy from San Francisco. So obviously they were looking for a little bit of competition there. They certainly didn't want to hand him the job. But I mean, I think he can do it adequately. And I also think McPherson can play the slot or the outside. So he has some versatility there.
All right. Andrew DiCecco, Football 4. Lance Dickerson's another guy that everybody is kind of trying to figure out what they're going to do with him. And will he be available to do anything, do you know, during the rookie camps?
As far as I know, I would have to think no. I would think he would be more of a bystander to learn from watching, get that FaceTime with the coaching staff, sort of get familiar with your teammates and things like that. If I'm the Eagles, why rush him back this early we're in May right now. By all accounts, he should be ready by the start of the regular season. And I think if the Eagles had their way, he wouldn't see the field at all. He'd be a top backup at center or guard. And it gives him another year to, stay fresh and not really put any more mileage on him. And then next season, obviously, take over for Jason Kelsey. I think in a perfect world, that's what the Eagles would like.
Well, the Eagles fans, they're going to want him out there battling with Sayamalu. See, I talked about this with Jeff yesterday. Like, I like Brooks. I wouldn't want to move Brooks. Like, I know he has kind of hinted that, hey, Brooks, he's older. He can get moved. But he's only like 31 years old. It's not like Brooks is 37 years old. I know he's coming off the injuries, but I don't know. My concern for Brooks getting hurt is not very high. That guy's in tremendous shape.
Yeah, I mean, and last we saw of him, he was still playing at a high level, and his recovery is, incredible. He's in great shape, as you mentioned, and he's one of the top guards in football when healthy, right? I mean, I think there's no denying that. And I think if there is a player that's in jeopardy, it would be Isaac Sayamalu for being unseated, because Jason Kelsey's a tough guy. He doesn't really miss a whole lot of time. So I think that if there is someone that's going to be replaced due to, poor performance, it would be Isaac Sayamalu. But like I said, I think if the Eagles had their way, they're going to keep the incumbents in place this season, and then next season, kind of turn it over to Dickerson.
How are you one of the big things I'm looking forward to, I know this is a little bit off, but, these are the kind of things that I get excited for and kind of what everybody's looking for, is that Dillard versus Mailata battle at left tackle. And how, do you kind of handicap that and see as the favorite in that spot?
No, I think you're spot on. I think that's one of the more intriguing camp battles, and something that bears watching. It's going to be something that you're going to be hearing about for the duration of the summer, and I think it's going to go all the way to the end. But I think Dillard's going to be given every opportunity, Mike, honestly, because of his pedigree. But I ultimately think that just the athleticism and Mailata's consistency and his growth that he showed, I think he's ultimately going to pull through and come out as left tackle. That's just my feel. And it wouldn't surprise me if, because you have Jack Driscoll there, it wouldn't surprise me if the teams are inquiring about Dillard late in the summer, because, how teams there's always an offensive line shortage around the NFL. And maybe a team has a good, a cornerback prospect that the Eagles like, or a young corner that they could throw on the outside there and develop. He might be a guy that they dangle out there in a trade.
Couple guys that I want to get your take on, because we haven't heard a heck of a lot about them, because obviously people aren't excited about these guys, but they were picks from last year, and that's John Hightower and Quez Watkins. And your take on what their roles might be like, and can both of them make it, or do you see that there's only a possibility that one of those guys sticks?
Well, first off, I think both of those guys have a chance, but I mean, I think Quez Watkins has more of an inside track than John Hightower, because let's not forget that John Hightower, when he came into the NFL, he was more of a raw prospect that had speed. I mean, I saw him at the East West Shrine Bowl, ran great routes, had no problem getting open, but his hands failed him on multiple occasions. I mean, and I think when the Eagles saw him, they wanted to stretch the field with him. I think Quez Watkins needed more nurturing, more time to kind of get acclimated and adjusted to the NFL. And I think what happened with Hightower was he was kind of overburdened and thrown into the deep end when he wasn't really prepared for that. And I think that, he showed a lack of spatial awareness and inability to track the football. And I think that it kind of played into his, he started to see a lack of confidence. The Eagles really didn't get creative in how they tried to get him the football. They didn't use him on any short to intermediate routes. It was more just the deep routes. And I think you saw a lack of confidence, and you also saw a late season emergence in Quez Watkins. And now I think John Hightower just didn't have a role. So let's not forget, John Hightower's 25 years old. He's not exactly young for a second-year player. And Quez Watkins, I believe, is 22 or 23 years old. Right. So, and I think he has a little bit more of an intriguing skill set. He's more explosive. He can punt. He could return punts. You saw that play. I believe it was against Dallas, if I'm not mistaken. His ability in the open field to make guys miss and be a home run type of player. He could easily challenge Greg Ward in the slot this summer. I think he has the build and the skill set for that. I just think he brings a lot more to the table from a skill set perspective. And I think there's a limited ceiling with John Hightower, but I do think that both players are going to be contending for a roster spot. And I mean, there's also going to be guys like J.J. Arcega-Whiteside that's hardly a shorter roster spot. And Trevon Grimes as well. So, I mean, there's not going to be any gimmies this summer. They're going to have to earn it.
Andrew DiCecco, Football at 4. All right, let's take a look at some NFL notes that are happening out there, as we will start to do as the offseason is officially here. We will continue to look at the Eagles' storylines each day, but some NFL stuff. How about Tim Tebow and that whole situation going on in Jacksonville? There are people that have it seems like there's a divide even inside Jacksonville's own locker room about this Tebow arrival.
Yeah, I think it's a joke. I mean, to be honest with you, 31 years old. I believe the last time he played tight end was, he was a teenager. And when you look at the guys who are out there as a free agent, you got Trey Burton's out there. You have Richard Rodgers who's out there, and there's a number of undrafted free agents that have talent that maybe haven't caught on with a team that are still sitting out there that would have killed for an opportunity to, latch on to an NFL roster and probably deserved it over someone like Tim Tebow. So, I don't know. I think if the Jaguars get onto Hard Knocks, it'll be a nice little fun storyline or whatever, but I don't know. I don't really know what to make of it. I just it's one of those things where I think that roster spot would have been better suited for a younger player or an established veteran that's still sitting out there.
All right. See, I agree with you on all the teams in the league except for Jacksonville, who the coach there has an innate relationship to know what Tebow adds to the locker room. Isn't that fair to say, hey, I know that this guy can add to our locker room, not be a distraction to our locker room. Like, if he goes to Denver or Pittsburgh or Cleveland, I think you're right 100%. Like, you're signing this guy as a sideshow. But the fact that the coach there knows what he brings to the team or the locker room, doesn't that add to, like, some of the, hey, I get this a little bit more than any of the other teams in the league?
Well, and that's all good and well. Character is, one of the most, one of the primary qualities that you look for in an individual. But can he play football at the same time? Do you need a cheerleader? Do you need, or are you looking for someone that's going to be able to contribute at the bare minimum on special teams?
Yeah.
Like I said, he hasn't played the position since he was in middle school, if I read that correctly. So I don't know. I don't necessarily see the upside there. I don't really know if you're bringing him in for to make him a coach. I
think that's what
you're going for.
I think that's what they were trying, like initially saying, come here, get into our camp, and then if he doesn't make the team, they bring him on. But the other thing that is interesting is obviously they had the number 1 overall pick, Trevor Lawrence, who's going to gain a lot of attention. Does this take some of the attention and allow him to kind of not have all this attention on him?
Yeah, I think so. Now he's kind of able to just kind of settle in and get acclimated and learn the playbook and things like that, because now this Tim Tebow thing, that story just spread like wildfire. And you see all the responses across social media and on the news as well. It wasn't one of those little footnote signings at the bottom of the screen on the bottom of the ticker there. Like it made some waves because because of his pedigree and everything like that. And there's a lot of people that thought he should have tried out as a tight end when he was coming into the NFL, and after it wasn't working out as a quarterback, but he didn't want to do that. But I guess now it's just, he's pulling out all the stops as a last hurrah.
All right, interesting stuff. Yeah, he has signed. Hasn't played football in 8 seasons. Remember, he had a 3-season tour with the Mets, and then of course he's back as a tight end, and we'll see if he ends up making that roster down there. Kind of an interesting story. Football at 4. Andrew DiCecco and he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. All right, Andrew, thanks, man.
Have a good one, Mike.
All right, we'll continue the football off season here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.